What's going on, guys?
Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot.
So this is Chris and Morgen again. We're doing some wrestling interviews. We got Lucas Etchason. He believed 2013 grad from Triton, correct? 2014 grad from Triton. Made it to state 3 times, I believe, right?
Yep.
And I think it was junior year. You get finished 4th, right?
Yep, finished 4th junior year. Was ranked 3rd junior and senior year. Yeah, tough matches senior year for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so we're just going to run through some questions. Morgan will start it off, and we're going to go from there.
Let's do it.
So, obviously, we're going to start off with the easy, simple one, the beginning. How'd you get started in wrestling? I know everybody kind of has their own little story. Yeah, I mean, did you have brothers, family, uncles wrestling down the line, or?
Well, I started when I was 4 years old. And it was kind of one of those things where you don't really know what's going on. Your dad just brings you somewhere and says, we're going to wrestle. And so started out with that, going to the youth ones, and those can be chaotic. There's about 40 little kids running around and stuff. And then we're going to wrestling tournaments all of a sudden, not really knowing what's going on. And yeah, I was in it for the trophy more than anything else, and because mom and dad were bringing me there. So definitely had fun and whatnot, and burned a lot of energy. I'm pretty sure that's why they put me in it. I had no other siblings or anything doing it. My dad wrestled when he was in junior high school back in the 80s. But other than that, no, it just kind of happened.
Nice. Who was the youth coach back then?
Sean Volts, I remember.
Okay, yeah, nice.
When I was 4, I think it might have been someone different, but I don't recall who it was.
Sure.
But for the majority of my youth, it was Sean Volts.
Nice. Yeah, he actually just retired, I think 2 years ago now. He jumped on the high school staff for about 5 years. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what age were you when you kind of started to take it a little more seriously, and you kind of just decided that, hey, I can be really good at this?
I started to take it a little more seriously, as serious as a youth kid can, I guess, right probably around 4th or 5th grade, probably really around 5th grade. I remember I kept getting second everywhere I went, and I wanted to do better, and I started to realize I could do better, and my skills were getting better. So I think that's when I started to actually start going to camps and actually having focus with it and enjoying it. And plus, I was never much of a sports guy to begin with. I thought a lot of them were boring when I was younger, and I always enjoyed wrestling. I always, that was my favorite sport by far, even before I liked sports or anything. So that's when I wanted to actually start doing better at it. And I remember there was a point where I was mad the trophies were going away and they were doing medals instead and t-shirts. But it wasn't even about that anymore. I remember thinking, like, man, that kid that keeps beating me and getting first and I keep getting second, this has got to change. And so that's when I started to tune in and focus a little more and actually going to practice instead of just run around and hang out, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. So camps, what do you remember what camps you went to?
There was a few different camps. Some of them were smaller than others. Some of them were like weekend camps and whatnot. I remember my favorite one was always the Luther College wrestling camp. I think the team we tried to get as many people from the team as we could for about 4 years there, my freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year. That was always my favorite camp. It was like a 4-day event, and we stayed there at the college, and they actually made it fun, but also really educational and beneficial too. And we always had a blast going to that. When at first people didn't really want to go, and after we saw how well we enjoyed it, it took off a lot more by the time my senior year came around.
Yeah, I think that your senior year was the last year Triton went to that one, but I think I had heard that they were going to go back this year, but then with COVID-19 and everything, it just probably didn't happen. So hopefully next year the team gets to go back to that. I've heard nothing but good things about that camp.
If anything, it's definitely a team building place too, because they make that. I mean, they make sure that your team is scoring points as a team in other ways than just winning matches too. So it was a big help for our team at the time. I remember.
Awesome. So how were you as an elementary wrestler?
I was nothing to like look over or anything, but I was nothing to scuff at either as far as my memory goes. I mean, I definitely won a few tournaments here, the 4-man brackets or whatever this. And then I started doing the regions and all that, and I kept getting second or third, I think. And I can't remember. I think it was around fifth or sixth grade. I started actually making it to the state NYWA tournament and stuff.
Nice.
Like I said, fifth grade is when it really turned on for me, I think. And yeah, it wasn't that I was bad. It's just I definitely wasn't the best either. It was, growing into yourself, getting, figuring out your own body type, I guess. And
Right.
it was interesting for sure, but it was always a fun sport.
Sure.
Yeah. Did you, I know when I was wrestling, I hit a huge growth spurt, and I mean, it kind of threw off my whole style of wrestling. And I was just like, I had it all down. I hit a growth spurt. I got big, and all of a sudden, the moves I were doing weren't working anymore. I had to change my moves up. So I know that's tough, as getting older, changing your style of wrestling too.
Yeah, I know what you mean there. I remember when I was younger, I was the hip toss champion. I'd always wanted to do the simple headlock hip toss. You're going down and quick, simple, easy. And if that didn't work, the half Nelson was always a go-to, just the simple, basic, elementary moves. And then as you got older and other kids got older, that wasn't working anymore. You'd end up falling on your own back or just looking like a fool most of the time. So then you started to, again, figure out what works better for your body and have listened to your coaches and realize that these coaches are actually here to help you and figure out what would work best for you and what you're good at, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. So I know Chris already mentioned a little bit about high school. I had to look back because I've heard the name so many times, I just could not connect the face. So like 3 hours ago, I looked you up on Facebook, and I had to go back to the older pictures because you look so much different now.
The beard helps.
Yeah. And so I was going back, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember watching you and stuff and seeing you around a lot. But I mean, obviously I was a little younger. I don't remember too much, but could you go over your high school a little bit, how you did? When did you crack the varsity lineup? When your partners, and I know you were with Patrick. Patrick had a lot of good things to talk about you, and the group that you guys had that all pushed each other, and there was some studs on that team.
Yeah. First, I'll shout out to Patrick. Missed that guy. I was kind of watching the interview that you guys had with him before we got on here. Haven't seen him in a while, but congrats on his baby coming soon.
Right.
There's a lot of guys that, I mean, throughout the years that I connected with and had a good time with. My seventh grade year, I wrestled varsity, and it was kind of needed somebody to fill the spot, and I was there, and I was up to the task there. But I remember I only won one varsity match that whole year, and it was against La Crescent at 125. So wasn't that big quite yet for a seventh grader, but it felt to me, the adrenaline rush was amazing. Being a seventh grader going out and wrestling these other 9th, 10th, 11th graders, it seemed really intimidating at the time. But I remember the JV, I was always wrestling that as a seventh grader too, and winning those tournaments and wrestling the older guys. And that was really beneficial, I think, being a bigger guy, because I had to wrestle the older guys because they were the only ones my size and stuff too. So I remember people like, there was Dakota Jensen, who always wanted to push me in the room. He graduated in 2011. A lot of the 2011 guys were there. There was Dakota Jensen, Cody Schletty, Jason Jennings. I'm trying to think of some of the other bigger guys. Jordan Johnson, who was a state entrant at Brock Franco, but that was a little later on when he got bigger. They all helped push me and stuff. And again, some of them got frustrated because I was a seventh grader and I was wrestling up to their standards too, even though they were still beating me and whooping me. It was definitely a good learning experience not to give up and stuff as a seventh grader. And then as eighth grade rolled around, that's when I started wrestling 145, and I wrestled that a majority of the year, if I remember correctly, along with the B squad tournaments when we could. And kind of the same thing. Those guys hadn't graduated yet, and it was a lot of positive mental attitude and determination going through that, wrestling as a younger guy, even in the duels and meets and whatnot. It becomes real then, and you realize you had a lot of work to do to keep up to the varsity potential for sure. Let's see. Then as a freshman, I wrestled 160 pounds, and I was weighing about 170, 175. So that was the year I cut weight, and I had to beat out, senior Ethan C, who was also a decent wrestler at the time. And every Monday we'd have a wrestle off, I remember, and would push each other to get better each week. But I'd always come out on top on that, and ended up wrestling the whole year at 160 and being miserable most of the time, honestly, trying to lose the weight. But then once you got on the mat, all that was worth it to me. And I ended up taking third at sections that year, I believe. And then my sophomore year came around, and after the year before, I decided I'm no longer losing the weight. I'm going to wrestle where I want to wrestle, where I'm comfortable. So I beat out nobody. I was at 182 at the time, and wrestled that all year long, and ended up taking first at the sections and going on to state, winning a match, and that was about it at that point.
Nice.
Then junior year rolled around, and I gained about 15 pounds of muscle, started working out a lot more, becoming serious, realizing my time was running out there for my wrestling career, and started working out about 2 hours a day in the weight room, and even at the little small 24/7 by Subway there, doing whatever I could to put on as much muscle as I can and just have as much fun as I could. And ended up weighing in at 195, wasn't allowed to go down any lower in the skin folds, and wrestled there all year long and had a blast doing it, and ended up focusing in as much as I could on it. Wrestling was my life my junior year for sure. That's all I cared about. Let's put it that way. If I wasn't wrestling, I was working out as much as I could to be better at wrestling and learning whatever I could to be better than I was yesterday. And ended up working out that way, and I took second at sections and ended up taking fourth at the state tournament. And then the next year wrestled 195 again, and took second at sections again, went undefeated all the way to the section championship, and ended up facing the state champion in the second round of the state tournament, and then number 2 after that, and lost by 1 point, and that was that.
Yeah. So you said, I just want to touch on something because if I remember it right, but you said 11th grade wrestling was your life. If I remember right, wasn't there like 6 or 7 kids ranked that year? I mean, it was a pretty solid squad that year, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we had. I mean, rankings differ every now and then, but I know a lot of my close friends, like Brock Franco was ranked, Patrick Ramirez was ranked, Alex Head was ranked for a moment there. I think those were the 4 that ever got ranked that year. But
yeah, I guess I thought I heard 6 or so, but I can't remember for sure. But
I know like Seth Johnson was beating people that were ranked pretty high. I think he beat the number 2 in the state or something at one point.
Nice.
And we had a solid squad that year for sure. It was a lot of fun. We were winning tournaments, and we got along as a team very well. We were a close-knit family that year, I remember.
Sure, yeah. I mean, and I even seen it coming in the next year. You know, that's when my stepson was a 7th grader that year, senior year, and then, you know, I mean, just the leadership from you and Patrick was crazy. I mean, it was awesome.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, he still talks about you guys to this day. I mean, and he's a sophomore in college now, so.
Mankato.
Yep. But yeah, I remember him telling me he's cutting weight, and he had to, you know, Patrick would take him to the wrestling room, and they'd ride the bike at lunch and all this stuff. And I'm like, that's just awesome. There's a couple seniors that are out there and they're team first guys, and it was nice to see.
And that helps. I mean, that helps the younger kids too. I know I had kids when I was in 5th grade that would come down to our elementary practices, like Jake Seamers, Mark Evian, where the coach at Triton now, my brothers and Blake Arndt, and all those guys would come down. And I remember, you know, it's so cool. It's so cool. You don't think it when you get older. Like I don't think when I went into elementary practices, I wasn't like, oh, you know, they look up to me so much. You don't think of it like that, but they really do. And it's cool. It helps bring them up, and they have something to go off of. It's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember, going back to when I was the younger kid wrestling the older kids, sometimes I remember them getting frustrated, and I mean, not to mention they're teenagers too, hormones are everywhere. But a lot of unnecessary anger and sometimes not the best leadership skills. And I just knew that by the time Patrick and I were juniors or seniors, we wanted to have a different team. We wanted to be a close-knit family. We wanted to show positive leadership and positive mental attitude, and then determination would get you through there. And that we're not, even though we're wrestling against each other and sometimes just beating the crap out of each other, making each other exhausted every day in practice, it's all out of love. We're here to make each other better, and we want this to be a fun experience. This isn't meant to be some kind of brutal fight club or something. This is to have a good time and enjoy the sport you're in. So
yeah,
I remember that was something I always strive to do. And even the younger kids, bringing them in. I mean, we wanted the program to continue going strong after we left, if we put it all possible. So
absolutely. Yeah.
So it means a lot knowing that you guys appreciated that.
Oh yeah. I know from a parent, I definitely did. And I was new to the sport and everything. So that's kind of when it all changed for me, but yeah, no, it was a lot of fun back that day. That year was one of my favorite to watch Trey for sure. Next question. So we kind of touched on it, but and you talked about your practice partners, but like, who were like some of the coaches that really stuck out over the years too through your high school?
Well, obviously Shane Van Beek, he did a lot for me. He was he lost not a ton of weight, but he got back into wrestling shape just to be a good practice partner for me when it got to the point where I needed another partner in the room and someone to actually be able to wrestle with me and show me new moves and tell me where I'm going wrong. So I always enjoyed Shane as a coach. He did a good job. He had a lot on his plate, and I appreciated every second he put in for me. Dale Jensen was always a great coach too. He was always a positive person in the room.
Absolutely.
He's always there to help pump us up and get us going. He'd also do other things, such as bring a whole case of Gatorade to the tournament. So things no one else would think about, but everyone would appreciate. So I remember I always appreciated Dale being there. He was always good to us. Mark Head, he was always a good coach in there. Show up every day after work, the same as Dale, and definitely helped the varsity out mentally and helped the JV out. He's a smaller guy, helped some of the smaller guys get better. And even if it just meant going live wrestling with him for a few minutes and stuff, he was willing to go up to the challenge and whatnot, even if he'd be out of breath at the end of it. And then my senior year, Corey Morgen came on the team. He helped me out a ton. He was just like Van Beek, was a great second coach to be in there when everybody else was dog tired from doing everything else besides just the live wrestling or showing us the moves from a different perspective and whatnot. He'd jump in, and he wasn't afraid to get on the mat with me and help me out in any way he could and push me harder than I was pushing myself. So
for sure. Yep. That's awesome.
Yes. So, favorite move.
Well, if you ask anybody back then, everybody knows my favorite move was the cradle. So it came to a point where it got to the point where it was a challenge to put the cradle in, because everybody was taught how to defend it before they got on the mat with me, by the time my senior year rolled around at least. But my whole career, I was always good at the cradle. I had big, strong, lanky arms, and I could make everybody fold up if I wanted them to and hold them there. And yeah, that was my favorite move. I also liked the double leg a lot. I liked to power through people for a takedown. That was probably my go-to. And then the butt drag was always my other one that I was a big fan of. If somebody shot on me, people stopped shooting on me actually, because most of the time they couldn't take me down, because I'd end up getting a takedown on them from it. So those are probably my three go-to moves.
Nice. What so going through your high school and youth, what's your favorite wrestling memory?
That's a tough one. I read that question earlier and I had a hard time thinking about it. A lot of flashbacks all of a sudden there.
Sure.
If I had to say, I mean, my junior year as a whole, I don't think I had a real favorite memory. It just, I felt like our team came together and we became more than a team. We became kind of a family that year. And like you said, it was fun to watch. It was fun to do too. And it wasn't about winning or losing for me at the time. It was just about going out there and beating the guy in front of me, but having as much fun as I could. I didn't care who it was. I just wanted to go out there and have fun. It wasn't really any pressure or anything. It was like, what's going to happen next? But I think my junior year as a whole was my best memory as a wrestler. But I also always enjoyed going to the state tournament too. It's just a whole different vibe, a different atmosphere out there. just like being that 7th grader going into your first varsity match and you're shaking and you're losing it and your adrenaline kicks in. That's kind of the same way the first time you went to the state tournament, but the whole time it was always just a different world out there. Everyone's here for a reason. Everyone's there because they worked hard, and everyone's ready to give it their all because they know there's not going to be another match after this, especially for seniors. You see a lot of emotions going on out there. Each match could be their last. The state tournament was definitely one of my favorite memories of wrestling too.
Sure.
Yeah, there's something different about that.
What's that?
There's something different about the state tournament. It's awesome. I mean, I've been to a lot of national tournaments and stuff that are even bigger venues and stuff, but it's just not the same. There's something different about the Minnesota State tournament that is just so different and awesome.
Well, I think it's also something where if you've been wrestling even into elementary school, you're growing up with these kids, you see them not only at sections where you're just in your area, but you see these kids from all over the state that were also growing, and you see that they've also put in the work. They're here now too, even if they're at different weights or whatnot. Just it's kind of like your whole wrestling experience, and they all kind of connect at the end there. Again, you run into people you haven't seen since you wrestled them when you were 60, 70, 80 pounds lighter, and they grow into their own weight and their own person too. And you can tell everybody's working hard, and it's just a different vibe. It's a closely knit vibe there. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
So kind of off of that, I know I've gotten so many friendships and just lifelong friends out of the sport of wrestling, not even from my own school. Just, I would go to other schools, and I beat this one kid from Waseca. His name was Lucas Hagel. And after the match, I pinned him, we went off the mat. And after the duel, we just kind of started talking with each other. And all of a sudden I had his Snapchat, he had my Snapchat. And I mean, I would drive to Waseca, he would drive to Hayfield, and we would work out with each other because it was such a good match. And we would work out with each other. And we ended up wrestling each other again that year. And I mean, we knew each other. We were been practicing with each other. And I mean, I beat him again, and we just continued all summer long. We would drive, and it's just awesome. I still message him to this day, and I got to watch him in college. And I've just made so many friendships out of wrestling, and just kind of want you to go talk about that a little bit.
I definitely know what you mean there. I mean, even your brother and Patrick did a little bit of that too, where they were wrestling each other, especially before the tournament. I remember I never had something where I could do that exactly. I wish I did, believe me. But I definitely made a ton of friendships throughout my wrestling career, even in the youth, all the way up through middle school, but especially in high school there. Made good friends with a lot of different people that are older and younger than me. If we'd wrestled, if I had lost to them or they lost to me, we'd always talk at the end of it. I remember after losing my last match at the state tournament, I hugged the guy I lost to because we had wrestled twice at the state tournament the year before, and it was always a close match. And we were talking before it was no hard feelings type of thing. It was just love of the sport. From Hayfield, Corey Thompson and I were friends. I haven't seen him in a couple of years now. He's out of state now, but just friendships like that, they're a different kind of friendship for sure. I mean, it's just a good bond you have. You guys both know what each other are going through. And I mean, even though they're your enemy for 6 minutes or whatnot, they're not your enemy in life or anything. You can learn from each other and grow off of each other too. So it's huge when you make friendships like that, just if you are willing to make friends like that.
Yeah, and that was, I know after the state or a match in the state tournament too, Jacob Benny, who's from Zimbrota, Mazeppa. We got done. We went into triple overtime. We went into triple overtime earlier in the year too, and I lost. Couldn't get out from bottom. And we wrestled at the state tournament my senior year. He rode me out again in triple overtime, lost, and we went back in the tunnel, and I sat down and, just emotional. I was, I wanted that state title, and he came and sat right next to me, and we sat there, and I mean, we talked for probably 45 minutes in the tunnel. We just sat there and talked with each other about, going forward in the tournament. I was telling him good luck, let's take the victory. Don't make me look bad, win the state title. And it was just kind of cool. We talked about just life, and it's awesome. It's awesome that you can, on that mat, I was like, hey, you're my enemy. I'm beating you. I'm getting that state title. and he was thinking the same thing, and he was going to do whatever it took. And then at the end, it was just like, it was just like brotherhood.
Well,
It's a close match.
fun fact kind of about Jacob Bennett. He and if you don't remember the name, Lucas, but I'm pretty sure he was a 7th grader when you were a senior, and Patrick got his 100th win against him as a 7th grader. And then he
Okay.
went on to what? I think he made to the state finals his last 3 years and ended up, or 2 of the last 3 years or something like that, and got second, and then I can't remember what he got in your bracket that last year, but did he get
Yep,
second?
he took second my senior year, and then I think he took second the year before. I mean, yeah, he was
just a hammer, but he took his lumps as a 7th grader too. He was, finished his career at 197, but started at 126 and got Patrick Ramirez, that night in Triton. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, it's nice to see how they grow like that. I remember another one, Patrick Russell, Jake Mant. He did really well from Chatfield.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think he was an 8th grader when we graduated, but it's nice to see them grow like that. And yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that. I guess it's good to see that growth as they mature and get better. And when you go out and face some of the best ones that are older than you at the time, the best at the time, it's only going to make you better. Don't be afraid to go out and do your best against people.
Oh, absolutely. All right. So this one's kind of like a 2-parter, but so to ask this question, like starting off by so what are you up to nowadays? I know you went to college, but then the follow up to where you're after that now is just how has wrestling helped you as an adult?
Well, I graduated from Mankato State in 4 years there, and immediately moved to Sioux Falls and got my first job out there as an equipment and distribution specialist out there, chemical specialist out in Sioux Falls, just something new. Recently moved back here this fall and live now in Northfield, and I'm an outside sales representative for Sherwin-Williams, covering all of Southeast Minnesota, and I absolutely love it. It's a great job to have and really fits my personality and what I like to do. Wrestling, I can't tell you how many. I think of wrestling probably on an hourly basis, if not more. Just again, the positive mental attitude it teaches you, and that discipline and determination it teaches you, that no matter what you're going through in life, if you just keep your head up and keep working at it, a solution will happen, or problems will be solved. And just have a strong mental attitude about life in general. I mean, sometimes it's going to knock you down, or you're going to have a bad day, but tomorrow's another day. You just keep working at it. And again, it teaches me how to have good relationships with new people I meet every day. And again, that they're not your enemies or anything like that. If you're, even if they're above you or anything, you can still be friends with them in the workforce or something like that. Wrestling helped me in more ways than I could ever tell you. It's a good mental game as well as a physical game.
Sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I know. Wrestling has helped me out in so many ways too. It's just, when, it's like the 7th grade year, you're struggling, and, instead of just quitting and being like, this is hard, you keep your head up, keep grinding, keep moving forward. And then all of a sudden, you're making the state tournament and you're placing at the state tournament. And it's like, when you keep your head right and you have goals in life and you keep going towards them, no matter what, I mean, good things are going to happen. And it's helped me a lot too. And I'm 21 years old. I'm not that old. And I mean, I can't tell you how much wrestling has helped me. And I mean,
one thing that I always carried with me in wrestling too was not there yet, or the biggest thing I carried with me is I'm not there yet, but I'm better than I was yesterday. So as long as you have a goal or a destination in your head of where you want to go or what you want to accomplish in life, even if you don't have the exact roadmap laid out in your head, if you just know that general direction you want to go, it'll help you just start doing it. And each day you're going to grow better and better. And if you don't give up and you have that determination to keep going throughout it, it's huge. You're going to succeed in life one way or another, as long as you keep moving forward with it, believing in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it kind of ties in. You were talking about, how you really got better when other people were there with you, like Patrick and them, and you guys were all working together. And it's kind of, a life lesson of the people you want in your life. You want the people that have the same goals as you, You want people that want to go in the same direction as you, and when you surround yourself with those people, it makes it a lot easier to keep
Absolutely.
So.
If you, or same vice versa, I mean, absolutely surround yourself with people who want the same thing or close to the same thing. They have common goals or dreams, aspirations. But also, if you just start to show those things, other team members will see that and they'll also start moving that way. Where the more they want to hang out with you, the more they'll want to strive to be like you and see your work ethic and keep moving forward like that as well. And they'll see how you take a hit or take a loss or take whatever and how you handle that and what you do to better yourself from that too. And yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good thing to be an example that way, but also if you see people you want to be like, believe it or not, people are probably also watching you as well and would want to see how you take losses like that and how you strive to become better from them. So it's definitely surrounding yourself with common people, but people will be drawn into your aspirations, I guess.
So I got it just off. This one wasn't on the list, but so as a kid that starts in 7th grade, wrestles all 6 years on varsity, at what point did you step into like more of a leadership role of that team? And then what kind of leader were you? Were you a lead by example? Were you a rah-rah guy?
What do you mean by rah-rah guy?
Well, just like someone that's going to get in the kids' face and yell and this, or were you the guy that just kind of kept quiet in the corner and just worked your tail off and said, follow my lead?
I think I was more of the second guy. Like I definitely wasn't quiet by any means, but I focused on myself a lot. It was an individual sport, but if somebody was not doing their best, I would be in their face yelling at them, but I'd be like, come on, let's get moving. We got like the positive reinforcement throughout it and stuff. And, yeah, I don't know what age I started actually doing it. I was always working as hard as I could, but maybe a little more quieter when I was younger, than probably around 8th or 9th grade when results started coming in and the younger youth started coming in. That's when the example started to set place with it and things started to change a little more. And that's when I knew I was there. I had my goal and I was going to go for it. And I wanted everybody to come with me, I guess. So whatever we could do to succeed as a team, it was going to make it easier on me to succeed as well. As I think my thought process on it.
Nice.
So one of the last questions we have here, and I think it's a super important one. There's a lot of kids that, might want to try wrestling, and parents are like, I don't know, the cutting weight, the I don't want you to get hurt. But what would you tell a kid or a parent that isn't quite sure if they want their kid to go out, or if they're not quite sure if they want to go out for the sport? And what kind of advice would you tell them? And yeah.
Well, first off, wrestling's not about cutting weight. Especially as a growing young adult, teenager, your nutrition's really important. And most of the time, teenagers, if you're anything like me, you don't know what's nutritious for you. So cutting weight can get dangerous really fast. Patrick cut a lot of weight and it worked out for him, but sometimes he got very unhealthy too. And it was almost scary to watch sometimes. So if you're going out just to lose a lot of weight, or if you go out and you think you have to cut all this weight, that's not what wrestling's about. So I don't like it when people think that's what it's about. And then another thing I tell them, if you're bored with your other sports or you're looking for something to do or just even remotely interest you, just go out and try it. You give the practice a couple tries, and then give a couple matches a try, even if you get your butt beat by it. It's see if you like it, see if you want to, how you feel about it when you're done. And if you like, hey, even if I just got my butt beat there, I want to try to do better. I feel like I could have beat that guy or something, and see if you actually get some kind of personal satisfaction from it. And you don't have to be good at it as soon as you come out either, or anything like that. You don't have to be abnormally athletic to be a wrestler by any means. Just look at me. You just got to enjoy what you want to do. So if you go out for the right reasons, if it's something that interests you, why not give it a try? If it's a personal challenge you're looking for, you're going to find it there, but you might find that that's something you enjoy in life as a personal challenge to make yourself better each day.
And that's the thing with wrestling. You look at a lot of other sports and, there's kind of one way to do things, shooting a basketball, you mostly shoot it like this, right? In wrestling, there's so many different styles that match up differently. And I mean, I know some kids that wrestling, I don't think they understand wrestling, but they just have a weird style and it makes it work. There was a kid on my brother's team that he would get put in a cradle to pin a kid. And it's weird. You don't have to have one set of skills, and every wrestler is unique in their own ways and has their own ways to do things. And it's kind of cool. I feel like a lot of other sports, don't really have that. You kind of got to go by
a strict guideline. I absolutely agree with what you're saying there. I mean, take it from me, the more you wrestle your own style, your own way, maybe not the correct way, the more they don't know really how to defend it or how to counter anything, or you'll find, the more they don't know what to do with you.
Yeah,
I had
how my style was, so that's why I say that a lot. I had a weird style, and not many kids wrestled like me, and it helped me because kids were like, "What is this? I've never been in a position before," and there's always it's kind of cool. I like wrestling for that reason.
Yeah, I had a lot of success with being a little different than everybody else with how I wrestled. So,
speaking of that success, coming off going to state 3 times, was there ever any thought in your mind of trying to pursue a college wrestling career?
Yeah, there was definitely thoughts about it. I had a few offers from a couple smaller schools and stuff, and that was the big thing with me. I wanted something out of it too, more than just the wrestling itself, because it takes a lot of your time once you go to school and stuff. If somebody offered me something that I looked a little interested in, I probably would have taken it. But I got offered to schools I didn't really want to go to. It wasn't for that much. So if it wasn't going to help me with my tuition, I felt it was time to focus on other things and start focusing on building my future and career and just taking the things I learned from wrestling and going from there. But there's not a day that goes by that I don't miss it. And there was a lot of times where I thought about trying to maybe start a club or go join a club or even walk on or anything, or try other new things. I mean, I tried a few things like such as MMA, started fighting with a couple of buddies, but life gets away from you. But I definitely have stayed in shape because of wrestling. Whenever I think about it, I get motivated and I get up and I want to stay in shape, and I end up getting to the gym or going on a run or whatever. It wasn't something that I thought was going to come with me if it wasn't a place I wanted to go, I guess.
Yeah, sure. That's not a bad answer at all, because you got to do what's good for you.
I just had a question. Oh, do you help out at all with any wrestling, like in Northfield or anything, or?
Nope, I've been in Northfield a very short amount of time, only about 2.5 months now at this point. Tell you the truth, I haven't put on my wrestling. I don't even know where my wrestling shoes are right now. When I graduated college, that's kind of the last time I helped out with anything like that, where I actually got into the room or anything. Yeah, I just haven't been in the room for a long time now. Yeah, I'd be glad to help if something came up, I guess, but also with this pandemic going on, it's hard to do anything like that. So,
well, sure. If you ever get an afternoon off, you're always welcome in our room for sure.
Thank you.
For youth and high school, man, they'd love to have you on both ends. So,
yeah, the little kids love having new people in there, and it's always fun to show a different style. And like you said, your cradle, you probably do your cradle a little different than I do, and it's good to show the kids different ways to do moves. So, yeah, whenever you're free, I mean, it would be awesome to get other people in, especially alumni, people giving back, and really try to get the program rolling and getting these kids, he was a 3-time state entrant, he was a state placer, and he came in to help us, and I want to be like him. And there are kids that think that. I know I thought it when I was a little kid, and I wanted to be like the older kids. I wanted to be just like them, and that's what made me work harder. Is I wanted to be just like them. And when I got older, I look back and I'm like, I think I did a pretty good job. But I think if it wasn't for the older people coming in and giving back, and I know Hayfield, they were pretty good at that. We always had alumni coming in, and that really helps the program a lot. So it'd be awesome to see you, and hopefully Patrick gets in. And I know it's busy schedule, so but if you ever have time, it would be awesome.
You guys still practice at 3? Is it 3:30 or 3:15?
High school starts 3:30, and then we start our youth practices at 6.
Okay.
I had a question based on, you mentioned when we were talking about talking to a parent or kid, and you said, you might go out and lose and then think I can beat that kid and work hard to get back. Is there one match in your high school career that just eats at you, that you still have nightmares about, or that you just wish you would have wrestled one situation differently? I know that probably happens with a lot of wrestlers, but maybe not too. But is there any that come to mind at the top of your head?
Oh yeah, quite a few. Oh yeah, I could name a few. For my section championship, my senior year, I went up against Monty Holm from Fillmore Central. We were both undefeated wrestlers for the year. I was seeded number 1 in the section. He was seeded number 2 because of my previous success. And we went out there, and I don't know if I was tired or what happened, but I ended up losing by, I think, a point, like 4-3 or something. And honestly, when I look back, I think it was more about the pressure on my shoulders that got to me. I mentioned my junior year, I didn't care what happened. I was going out there to have fun. But yeah, I ended up losing by a point and never got a chance to wrestle him again. Didn't see him in the state tournament. He ended up losing, unfortunately. Yeah, that one sticks in my head. One I feel like I could have done better at, and the results should have been that way. And to tell you the truth, the same as my section championship match my junior year, I wrestled Justin Biss from Chatfield. He was the coach's son from Chatfield there. They were the state champions as a team that year. And I'd beaten them earlier in the year by like 15-3 or 4 or something. And somehow I lost by a point again in the section championship. And then the cards played in our favor where I was able to wrestle him in the state tournament later that year. And I beat him by a couple points in the state tournament. And yeah, I never got that chance with Monty Holm. Great guy. Friends with him on Facebook and all that, but God, I'd love to wrestle him again if I was back in 2014 right now.
Yeah, I wondered if, wrestlers, I didn't wrestle, so I didn't know, but I wondered if every wrestler has that 1 or 2 matches that they, they're thinking about it still 10 years later.
Oh yeah, I've got a few more. I could talk about it probably longer than I should. So
that's awesome.
It's usually those close matches.
Sure. Yeah, I think everybody kind of has their own. I know Travis Rett, he's got that one from what did he say? Where is it from? Ukraine, was it?
Yeah, something
that he could never beat. And Mason, I know my brother, his was his state finals match. I mean, you bring it up and it's a sore spot. He doesn't like talking.
I remember when he tossed the guy.
Yep. And I mean, he's still soft about that. And like Willie, one of my roommates, he's still soft about his state finals match that he ended up losing in. And I have plenty that are sore spots that I'm just like I could have done so much better. Like, I wish I could go back, but you can't. And so one thing you kind of talked about, like you kind of had a target on your back, when you were a senior. You were the guy that everybody was coming after, and it's hard to what's the word? It's hard to keep working, when people are coming after you. It's hard to keep going after more, to keep working harder, knowing that like when you're the guy, you were the number 1 seed at sections and everybody was coming for you, and you have to take a step back and be like, all right, I got to take care of these guys, before the state tournament. And did you did that help you, the being ranked or being the 1 seed? Did you like that pressure, or did you like being the underdog?
I think I like being the underdog more, because I definitely was my junior year. I was ranked in all that junior year, but it wasn't about that. I was going out there for me, and it goes back to the new people trying the sport. it was something that I just thoroughly enjoyed. I was out there to make myself better and go as far as I could and have the most fun as I could. And that's exactly what it was. I didn't care what any of the pressure was. I didn't care who they put up against me and stuff. And then my senior year, I kind of got in my own head about it with the pressure getting to me, where I wrestled more cautiously than I normally would have, I feel like. And it was a lot of pressure on your shoulders for sure when it came to that. I didn't mind so much the target on my backs or who was coming after me. It was more of a, how do I win this match more than it was like, yeah, how am I going to win this match more than how do I win? Yeah, it was a lot more thought into it, I guess.
So,
a lot more thought to caution with it.
To piggyback off of that, so I mean, Triton's a football school. Typically, that's what we're known for. But I mean, and even the wrestling team had some success back in the early 2000s. But I felt like that your senior year, I mean, it was like you and Patrick were like rock stars. You know what I mean? You had those big posters right by the door in the gym, and there was just a different mindset, at least about you two. I mean, when you guys were on the mat, I mean, it felt like there was just random kids coming to watch wrestling matches and all that stuff. I mean, that had to have been a pretty cool feeling, actually, because I mean, it's something that's not happened a lot at Triton.
Yeah, it was definitely an awesome feeling. Those posters were sweet. My dad still has my poster, so
I wish we would go back to those, to be honest. I mean, they were life size. I don't know if you've seen them, Morgan. They were 2 life size posters of Patrick and Lucas right when you walked into the doors. It was awesome.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was kind of a mini celebrities. I mean, all the senior sports, I think, had them. Like anybody who was a senior on varsity had those posters. So the basketball team, boys and girls basketball, had them too, I remember. But it didn't change the fact that it was still pretty awesome seeing that. And I definitely knew we had our fan base and stuff, and we were known. And yeah, it was awesome having a fan base, but also it made us feel that much more appreciated and better and wanted us to keep working harder at it. It was a lot of fun knowing that we had support in the school, I guess, or had support in the community too, even just people talking about us. Our names would be in the paper, and it was pretty sweet seeing that. And yeah, even just there was times where we'd go around and try to promote the wrestling, just come to the duel tonight, or ourselves throughout the school. I mean, we probably should have been in class, but we weren't. We were running around. Our minds were at one place, and that was at the tournament that night or the duel that night, whatever was going on, trying to get other kids to come. And it was fun building that. It was fun building that fan base, that support throughout the community for sure. And it was a great feeling to have.
Well, I can imagine. I mean, I haven't seen much like it. I mean, we've had a lot of kids that have done really well since you guys too, but it just felt different that year, I guess.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's all I have down for questions. We kind of went over a little more than what is even on our questions, but that's what happens when you get conversations rolling and get carried away. And with wrestling, I can get carried away all day. I can talk wrestling all day. I'm sure you could too. I mean,
to be honest with you guys, I haven't seen a wrestling match since my freshman year of college.
Really?
I noticed I was getting way too sad about it when I'd watch it.
Oh, really?
So I haven't gone back since section tournament that year. I haven't had the opportunity really either, but yeah, I remember I got real sad about it. So enjoy your time while you have it, but make sure you have fun while you're doing it.
Absolutely.
It's there to be enjoyed and become a better individual. So
absolutely.
For sure.
Well, awesome. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. And I think that's where we're going to end it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Go Cobras.